The fight was never there. Have you ever chased the wrong thing, only to realize too late that the real danger was elsewhere? You got pulled into the noise, the distraction, while the true move happened where no one was looking. That's the power of strategic diversion. There's a name for this: Feint East, strike West, a strategy that uses misdirection, illusion, and timing to win without fighting directly. Today, you'll learn how it works and how to defend against it. What is Feint East, strike West? This strategy is simple. Create a loud distraction in one place, then strike quietly somewhere else. It works not because you're stronger, but because the other side is looking the wrong way. That's the trap. When you believe the noise, you miss the strike. Let's begin with a story from ancient warfare, where dust and drums filled the front lines, but the real attack came from behind, and only one man saw it coming: the strategist who saw through the smoke. Year 197 CE, northern China. The battlefield is loud, but truth is often quiet. Nearly 2,000 years ago, a warlord named Cao Cao launched a campaign to seize the territory of a smaller rival, Jia Xu. Cao Cao had the numbers, the firepower, the confidence. He planned to overwhelm quickly, then move on to his next conquest. But standing in his way was someone different, a man rarely remembered in the spotlight of history, but feared by every commander who knew his name. Jia Xu, a military advisor known not for brute strength, but for clarity. Cao Cao's plan was textbook deception. He feigned an obvious attack from the east, deploying his forces with dust and drums, everything designed to look like a direct assault, the kind you prepare for head-on. His real plan was to flank from the west, sending elite troops in secret to a less guarded valley, hoping to catch Jia Xu from behind while the main forces were distracted. Most generals would fall for it. But Jia Xu didn't move. He sat, observed, studied not what was visible, but what was off. Too much noise in one direction. Too little movement where real command tents should be. Something wasn't right. He turned to Jia Xu and said, "The noise is a distraction. The real attack is coming from behind." Jia Xu didn't argue. He trusted him. They quietly reversed their defensive formations, putting their strongest men not in front, but to the rear. When Cao Cao's elite strike force emerged from the west, expecting a soft target, they ran straight into a wall of resistance. The ambush failed. Chaos followed. Cao Cao's own son was killed in the retreat. His general Dian Wei died defending the rear. Cao Cao barely escaped with his life. The feint was perfect, but only if your eyes were shallow. Jia Xu didn't fight louder. He saw clearer. And in doing so, he unraveled a plan that fooled everyone else. That is the danger of Feint East, strike West. It doesn't aim to overpower you. It just needs you to misplace your focus. What worked on ancient battlefields still works now. But in the 20th century, it wasn't a single strategist spotting the trap. It was an entire army making sure the trap was never seen. A war won with cardboard tanks. Year 1944, World War II. In 1944, the world held its breath. The Allies were preparing the largest amphibious invasion in history, a cross-channel assault to liberate Europe from Nazi occupation. But there was a problem. Hitler's forces knew it was coming. They just didn't know where. The real target was Normandy, a long exposed stretch of beach with strong German defenses. But if Germany reinforced it early, the entire operation would be doomed. So the Allies needed a solution. Not more weapons, not more troops. They needed a distraction. And thus was born Operation Fortitude, a campaign of deception so elaborate, so convincing, it would fool Hitler's top generals for months. The Allies created an entire fake army, the first U.S. Army Group. Its commander, General George S. Patton, the most aggressive, most feared Allied general. They based this phantom force in southeast England, closest to Calais, the narrowest point between France and Britain. Then came the props. 1. Inflatable tanks laid out in open fields. 2. Fake airfields with dummy planes. 3. Radio chatter, all scripted. 4. Fake troop movements, staged just for aerial surveillance. Even double agents, feeding false information directly to German intelligence. The entire act was designed for one thing: to make Germany think the invasion would hit Calais, not Normandy. And it worked. On June 6, 1944, as Allied forces stormed the beaches of Normandy, German commanders hesitated. They thought it was a diversion. The real invasion, they believed, was still coming at Calais. For weeks, they held back reserves. By the time they realized Normandy was the main event, the Allies had already broken through. This was Feint East, Strike West on a global scale. They didn't just outgun the enemy. They misled him with cardboard, balloons, and believable lies. What saved lives that day wasn't just bravery. It was strategy, the kind that doesn't shout, but whispers in the right ear. Military operations aren't the only places where feints succeed. Sometimes the battlefield is a quiet city. The weapons? Fire, fear, and perfect timing. The night Nice was on fire. July 2011, Nice, France. It began just before dawn. A quiet Sunday, streets still sleeping. But somewhere in the shadows, a storm was building. In the city of Nice, France, a team of armed professionals prepared to hit the Brinks Cash Depot, a high-security facility that stored millions in banknotes destined for étimes and businesses across the Riviera. But this wouldn't be a smash and grab. This was something else. Before they ever touched the vault, the gang set fire to cars across the city. They blocked roads with trash bins, created bottlenecks and smoke in residential zones. Police were flooded with reports. Multiple arsons, street chaos, urgent response. Emergency units rolled out, fire crews diverted. Law enforcement stretched thin. That was the feint. The real strike came quietly. While sirens screamed elsewhere, the gang moved on the depot. Inside, they executed a rapid, high-pressure breach. They subdued guards, accessed the cash storage, and escaped, fast, clean, and professional. By the time police realized what was happening, it was already over. The city had been chasing flames, while the money vanished into the dark. This was no accident. It was orchestrated misdirection, a distraction designed to fracture attention, to make the real crime look like a side effect, not the main event. Feint East, the fires, the chaos, the false urgency. Strike West, the vault, the silence, the money. This was a criminal version of military brilliance, and it worked, because no one was looking where it mattered. You don't need to be in a war zone or a boardroom to get misled. It happens every day, in conversations, in news headlines, in your own inbox. The tactic is simple. Distract you from what matters, while something else happens in silence. So how do you protect yourself? Here are 4 things to start watching for, not in others, but in your own attention. 1. Pause before you react. When something grabs your attention suddenly, a dramatic headline, a crisis, a demand to act now, step back. Ask yourself, why now? Who benefits from me being emotionally invested in this? Urgency is often used to short-circuit your thinking. Slowing down is your first defense. 2. Ask, what's missing? Deception rarely lies through words. It lies through what's left out. If you're only seeing one side of the story, if no one is explaining the quiet parts, that's where you need to look. Always ask, what aren't they telling me? 3. Be wary of outrage bait. If something seems designed to make you angry, scared, or defensive, it probably is. Emotion is a magnet for attention. Once you're emotionally hooked, You stop asking questions. Don't let rage decide your direction. Calm is clarity. 4. Watch what changes quietly. Big moves rarely announce themselves. They happen in the background, in footnotes, policy changes, new terms of service, quiet relationship shifts. When everyone's looking one way, pay attention to what's quietly moving the other way. Ask, what changed while I was busy reacting? This isn't about suspicion. It's about balance. You don't have to distrust everything. You just need to stay awake. Because not every distraction is malicious, but every one of them has a cost. Guard your focus. That's where your freedom lives. When someone wants to mislead you, they won't always lie. They'll just give you something else to look at, something louder, something urgent, something emotional. Your job isn't to fight every noise. It's to notice when the noise isn't the point. You don't need to be paranoid. You don't need to be perfect. But you do need to stay awake, especially when things feel too obvious. Because once you learn to guard your attention, you stop giving away your power. If these words have reached you in a moment you needed them most, I hope you'll let them sit with you. Let them take root, not as answers, but as quiet companions. These are more than lessons from the past. They are tools for living, for understanding yourself, others, and the world around you. Take what resonates. Leave what doesn't. Return when you're ready. You don't need to change everything overnight. Sometimes wisdom works slowly, like water shaping stone. Just begin, wherever you are.